Hello, 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 hello. Oh, good evening, everyone. Good evening, Peter. Good evening. Hey, just come to the front. You know, the best places are up here. There is free beverages and everything. So, welcome to the second edition of Alpe Adria, to our special pre-conference event to meet Mike Hichwa. Hello, Mike. Good to have you here. Thanks for coming.
It's great to be here. My third Apex dedicated conference.
Yeah, that's awesome. So it's amazing. Last year we started, and this year we have like 100 attendees more than last year. That's a good number.
Fastest growing Apex conference in the world.
Oh. So, Mike, you recently got promoted, so congratulations to that.
Thank you.
Do you want to tell us what your title is, what your position is, and what you're responsible for?
Yeah, well, sure. I think it's quite something that I just was fiddling around making tools, and then it kind of worked out, and then they promoted me to senior vice president. So it's pretty good deal. I got to do what I wanted to do.
That sounds very important.
I don't know about that.
So, what do you do? What's your day job other than doing Apex?
Well, I you know how people like they do social media or they do something like that. They just kind of like a tick. They have to do something. So for me, when I come into the office, I start like reading my email. Then the email is kind of complicated, and there's a lot of whatever going. I don't know what to do. So I just open up Apex and I start coding some application. I do that for 20 or 30 minutes or whatnot. Then I kind of call some people up and ask for a little bit of help, and then I go back to doing emails and attending meetings and such. But I probably say 4 hours out of my 10-hour day is coding Apex, and whether it's mostly building applications, and then Shiki Brahmins works down the hall, so it's like this is a pain in the ass. Why didn't you do it this way? And this is hard to use, and yeah, so that's sort of my day. But it's also lots of meetings and lots of opportunities to work on cloud and work on new database releases, and there's a lot changing in the Oracle world.
So that sounds amazing. Coding as means for mitigation, right?
Yeah, I'm worried though that I somehow feel like my coding's not as good as it used to be, and I used to remember all the syntax. Now I have to Google it. It doesn't take very long, but still,
But you got code completion now in Apex.
Yeah, well, it only goes so far. You have to kind of know what you want to complete before you start.
Yeah, that's true. So you're the founder of Apex. You invented Apex.
Yes.
A while ago.
Yes.
So that's 20 years?
A little more than 20 years. So so I had Oracle Forms was going well, and then this person walked. I was working in a cube, and this person walked by and showed me something called Mosaic, which was a precursor to Netscape, which is a web browser. So I asked him, what's Mosaic? He said, it's a web browser. And I asked him, what's a web browser? And he's like, well, it's like a universal client. You connect to the internet. And I asked him what the internet was. and I was at the time, if people know Oracle Forms, it had, at least Forms 3.0 had these INP files. So it was sort of like it was almost like a JSON document, but not really, or an XML document, something similar. And so I was writing all these programs to generate them to make it faster to build Oracle Forms apps. And so when I saw the browser, though, I just stopped what I was doing mid whatever. I just gave it up completely. I just transitioned to building out web applications. So the problem with the web application is you needed a web application server. So I had an office mate, Tom Kite, and I asked him if he'd build me a web application server because he knew C. And so he coded a web application server, which became the Oracle HTTP server eventually. And we built out internal applications.
That sounds very exciting.
And so like the first applications we built were kind of handcrafted in PL SQL, and then we realized that was just way too much work. So we needed to have a tool to make it easier to build it. And of course, it was all influenced by Oracle Forms and what you could do there.
So What was the first commercial app you built with Apex?
Well, we don't really sell commercial apps per se, but the first internal apps we built was we built a calendar for the company. So there's a good story about this guy, Sohaib Abbasi, that was written up from the Doag. Oracle Forms is now 40 years old, so it started in 1979. This guy, Bill Frank. 40 years is a long time for software. But anyway, he wanted to replace a calendar inside of the company, and so we wanted to use this calendar. So I've been working on Apex for a month or two, so we decided to build the app. So Joel Coleman, Tom Kite, and myself, we built the application in a few months, and it went live within 2 or 3 months to 25,000 people. And so the first Apex application was an enterprise application used by everyone to book conference rooms and schedule everything in the company worldwide. And it allowed us to get off of I can't remember, it's inner office or some sort of office suite that we were going through different versions.
Awesome. So Apex has gone through some name changes.
Sure. So the name change is pretty interesting. So it was launched in 2004, so the first public cloud. Backstage, we called it Oracle Platform for some reason, and I was on stage, and they basically 20 minutes before this launch, and they said, well, the name sucks, you can't call it Oracle Platform. And so I had my PC, all the source code was there, it was nowhere else. And so I just did a search and replace for Oracle Platform, and they said, well, it's kind of about the web. The web's about Marvel comics, like Superman with the web stuff. So they said, call it Project Marvel. So I just changed all the code, all the references I could, and it got launched as Project Marvel.
But you read flow, and flows everywhere.
Ah, yes. So the flows name, there's this guy that ran Oracle applications. His name was Ron Wall, and I had built a product called WebDB originally, and WebDB was nice, but you couldn't build an application in it. It didn't have any sort of thing. So I interviewed Ron for a couple hours, and we talked about all these things about what a next generation tool would need to do. And he told me it's all about the flows. It's about going from here to there. And you have all these storyboards, and I really never heard the term flows or storyboards, but he was absolutely right. And so I started mocking up all these storyboards and then designing the metadata that would capture the ability to have a storyboard. So you go through a wizard, go through an ATM banking transaction, go through a sales proposal type thing, and then built up everything. So everything, all the table names were flows. But the product was never called flows, but the table names are written that.
Okay, so then later on it was released as HTMLDB, and then you...
It was released as HTMLDB, and I remember we would have these training sessions, and people would come in and they would talk to the receptionist and say, I want to see the HTBD. They just couldn't get it out. And a number of people wrote personally to Larry Ellison. So Larry called me up and said, I named your product, the name kind of sucks, we need a new name. And this guy, Mark Townsend, came up and said, well, why don't we call it Application Express? Because you can build applications fast, and we had an Express edition of database or whatever, so it just made sense. And then Apex just came out like it was just a perfect name.
And it's a perfect fit. Once you learn that if you Google for Apex stuff, you have to add Oracle to that.
We do. Salesforce did it after us. But there's this application exchange, and it should be noted that I also built with Joel and Tom Kite a Salesforce automation tool for Oracle internally, and at that time Mark Benioff worked for Oracle, and Mark Benioff was super impressed with us. He was, with Larry Ellison and I were in this conference room in California, and Mark was just jumping up and down and how cool it was. You had web browser, you could do the sales forecasting, you could do it globally, you could do all these things, much better than the Oracle Forms implementation. No one could use it. It was great. And 1 month later, he started his own company, Salesforce.
Well, it worked out, right?
It worked out for him. Better than me, but yeah. He's a smart guy. He's a smart guy. Really go get him.
So is the name Apex gonna stick?
Oh, it's sticky. It's in the shirt. You can't change it. And Jurgen just makes these stickers. You can't create more stickers. No, it's the perfect name. There's no better name. It's the best named product in Oracle.
So plus we brought the Apex banner, right? That's the one original Apex banner from your team.
Ah, okay.
So this is actually traveling around the world to all the conferences. So we're going to hand it off to Apex Connect next, and then it's going to travel to Case Cove, and I don't know, all the places. So the community is awesome.
What's interesting is that it's not about the products, it's about the community. The community drives the products. Not that the product doesn't drive the community drives the products. And we firmly believe this. I think most people in this room know at least half the development team, if not more, and they feel welcome to call them up anytime or email them and tell them what they like or don't like, and they'll get an answer. I think that's how we ran the business from day one, when there was one or two of us, Joel and myself, and we're not changing that. We think it's our secret sauce, by the way, is to be out and among and actually use our product ourselves. And
that's awesome, and that's important, right? So speaking of team, you used to have quite a constant team size over the years, but now you're growing more and more and more.
We are, and we have an opportunity now. I think that the low code is kind of kicking up. Gartner and Forrester, the analyst companies, both have a renewed interest in low code. I think people are just looking for maybe for a certain class of application to spend less time doing it and to have less maintenance costs long term. And so the whole space is taking off. But to be honest, the additional staff is because of the community enthusiasm. So when I show Larry Ellison that we have dedicated conferences and show him all the Twitter feeds and all the people, doing these things, there's not too much in Oracle that has that much enthusiasm. So that's what's driving it. So we're hiring as kind of as fast as we can and spinning up the group.
So you would say Apex could be the key to make Oracle cool again.
Yes, that is the hashtag.
Okay.
Yeah, so there is actually a hashtag Mocha, because all of us, we know that Oracle, the database, is awesome, and Apex is great, and ORT really works out well. Everything's fine. Just the anticipation of some people outside of this community isn't always as great.
And so with Apex, the database is the application server. So I've got 5,000 people to build my application server for me, and 20 million users to perfect it over a 30-year period. So it's a reasonably strong application server.
Yeah, it is.
It's got enterprise credentials.
It's all there. So for you, what do you see in the future of Apex? It's like far down the road. Where do you want to go?
So I think it's sort of a constant evolution. So the first application we built, Joel and myself and Tom Kite, we did it through SQL insert statements. So we built the engine first before we could build a builder. It was obvious it had to be built in itself, but there's a chicken or egg problem. So everything was just insert statements. You didn't have to type them in every time, right? You put in a file, just run them, and we didn't like it, just rerun the whole file. So it wasn't that bad, but yeah. So I think that it was just a constant evolution from very awkward through insert statements, through basic web forms, and Patrick Wolf, I don't know if he's here yet, but he came up with the idea of you need a page designer, have to have it. And so it took a while for it to mature, but that's really given us a sort of a world-class IDE, integrated development environment, drag and drop, and the whole thing. And it's super fast, and it's quite complicated. It's nicely extensible, and so I just see that the ease of use and the fidelity getting better. And as the web and browsers progress at a rapid pace and JavaScript frameworks progress, it's just going to be able to build the best applications of the day in an abstracted, declarative way.
What's your biggest competitor in terms of, I don't know, products within Oracle or outside even?
Yeah, so competition is kind of interesting. I kind of think the competition is not actually low-code tools. So we might compete with Mendex and OutSystems, who I think are both doing really good work, and it's amazing to see how much they're progressing their products. But I kind of see them as good because it makes it legitimizes the whole space. And so I think the biggest competition Apex has is just hand coding everything in JavaScript from scratch every time by individual developers making all their own decisions and reinventing all the common components every single app.
Yeah. So that seems a bit ridiculous, but I'm still meeting people like a lot who just love the code. They love, going deep down, and they build everything from scratch all the time.
It's cool. I mean, it's complicated stuff, and it is hard, and hats off to the people that do it. But if you're a manager and you're looking for productivity, it's not always the right answer. Sometimes it is, but sometimes it's not.
Yeah. So, by the way, you're welcome to ask Mike any question. If you're interested in anything, just come up here. There is an extra microphone over there on the side. You could come on the stage. This is live, going out to the world. That doesn't help, right?
I have one.
Okay.
Not from the chat, but for me. I can actually not go to the. Is it loud enough to ask? So, based on my experience, now over 15 years in Apex and Apex Squad and everything, I have the feeling that we actually just reached 10% of the potential of the Apex customers. How do you see that? I think we have the feeling, we are a lot of people, but honestly,
yeah, Jürgen's asking if the community has really reached more than 10%, and I think you're correct. And so internally, we do some analysis, and so we think the database tracks usage, and we get about 3 to 5% of databases that use Apex. Now, it should be said that a very good percentage of Oracle apps don't have any application development environment, but and a customer installs hundreds, if not thousands of apps, depending on their size. So Apex actual penetration to the customer base is probably around 30 to 50%. It's hard to know exactly, but somewhere around there. But we think we have tremendous upside. We think that we have to get the awareness. Things like this help, and we just need to just keep plugging along and making it better and making it more competitive and more modern, and just showing there's a great way to build out web apps. But it's tremendous upside.
Can I add something? So we can try.
You can use the mic if you're not.
If you're an ace, come to the stage.
No, I'm just
More aces could join us if they want.
Jürgen did a podcast with Andy Mellinson, right? In that podcast, I remember, so the correct word I think is disruptor or differential. So basically it comes down to the question, who is the biggest competitor to Apex? And I think there's none in the market. And I think from the podcast, what I got out from the podcast, what I heard was actually that Oracle, I don't know, maybe the highest levels, they recognize that basically Apex is something that only Oracle has, right? So, I think that Andy said something similar, that this is actually a turning point, that they have even the top end, that they have to push more to really.
Yeah, inside the company, we view it as a differentiator. So when you look at what most people do is they're going to code something in an open source. Maybe they're going to code it in React. Maybe they're going to code it in Angular or something like that. But with Oracle Apex, you keep people in the Oracle family, and people really like that a lot. We think it's great that there's an Oracle tool, an Oracle brand on the application. People like to do it. So there's also this feeling that over a period of 5 or 10 years that the Oracle install base, which is mostly on-premise, is going to move to the cloud. And when they do move to the cloud, that Oracle Apex is super well suited to be a cloud thing. It's all through a web browser. It's just cloud friendly from day one.
It comes down also to, I'm just remembering the last year when Joe was at Adria, he asked me a question. So what would you use if there was no Apex from tomorrow on? And that's actually a question for everyone. So my reply was I would search something similar, what is Apex? So I always say, to be honest, I really like the name HTMLDB because this is how it's the easiest to explain what Apex is, right? So
because you're a nerd.
Sorry?
Because you are a nerd.
I will take that as a compliment.
Yeah, it was nice.
It takes one to know one. But no, like it's like, what would I pick? I don't know. That's and that's the thing. That's the biggest thing with Apex. I don't know what to pick in terms of new Apex.
Yes, if you think of Oracle itself, like it was called, I can't remember, Relational something Inc. or whatever before it got the name Oracle from a project they won with the CIA. And so Oracle doesn't say relational database management system with support for the SQL language written by IBM, way back in the day. Caught in date, but yeah, I think it's great that it's an abstracted name. HTML is much, as Larry picked the name, is very, very descriptive, kind of like CDLRA, Zero Data Loss Recovery Appliance. But I don't know, Apex is cool. I just HTML-DB on your shirt, Apex in your shirt, or your sticker on your laptop is cool.
So what would you do without Apex?
What would I do without Apex? I don't know. I would create another Apex or create something else. But the Apex is not just the tool, right? The tool is just an excuse to be able to run the relational SQL, right? It's the ability to use the database directly without any impedance or type mismatch or casting the result of a query. It's basically relational database, the ability to manipulate data and query data, aggregate data, get analytic functions and chart it and display it in calendars or what have you, simply and easily. So it's really, I've always described to Larry and Andy Mendelson, my manager who runs the database group, that it's just a veneer over the database. So the real power is database. As far as database, it just needs the front end, and Apex just provides that little front end that allows you to get the visualization out of it.
And then we come to the thing that Apex is not for the big applications, enterprise application. It's slow and so on. And then we come to the thing that's like, we are just saying that PL/SQL is slow, that the Oracle database is not for enterprises and so on. Would you agree with that? Because
well, yeah,
it's
so,
just like,
so it's a common sort of assumption, right? So if you're building a tool that's for beginners or does not require a lot of complexity, then clearly it must be slow, right? It's just a logical step, but it just happens to be wrong. And the actual opposite is true, especially when you have lots of applications. So if you take a look at like apex.oracle.com, it runs 200,000 applications on a very small piece of hardware. And so it's amazingly scalable. And it was built that way. All the initial applications of Apex were to over 10,000 people. So from day one, it was deployed. It was Oracle's enterprise company who built enterprise apps for enterprise customers. We the first commercial customer to use it was a police department, and so they were having troubles with Oracle Forms. They wanted to move to the web. They needed to be able to access it from the cars. And Mark Seeds and Joel and the whole team went to Chicago, got an apartment, and lived there for a year, and built on the application. They're still using it today, and they went live before Apex went live. So
that was the flows, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
It's like, I think it's still the thing that, I don't know, everyone in this room, we know that, right? So Apex, this is actually, everything is in the database. So we can't say that Apex is slow because it always.
Yeah. So Connor McDonald, I don't know if you know Connor. He tweets and builds videos, but he's one of the Ask Tom. So Ask Tom used to be Tom Kite, but now it's Ask the Oracle Master, TOM. But anyway, Connor McDonald, he's Australian. So he took the entire load of Ask Tom and ran it on his PC. And he was getting like 200 page views a second on his laptop with the entire stack and the entire workload of Ask Tom for 10 years. So not only can Apex run enterprise loads on like an Exadata, which you would have hoped that it would do that, but it also can run an amazing amount of transactions on a laptop, on your Mac or PC.
See, that's probably the reason why so many people love to use XE version of the database in combination with Apex. So that's finally something where small businesses have access to Oracle, right?
Absolutely, and Apex, XE 18.3 is much more robust than 11.2 was. So it's really got pretty much every developer feature that we got in. So you get the full enchilada. You get to have multiple PDBs, you get everything's there.
So
I have questions from the chat.
oh, there are questions from the chat.
Yeah, sure. That's the whole point.
Welcome, chat. Is it chat justice?
No, it's not.
Okay.
So the first question comes from Andre Meyer. And the question is, I think it's loud enough because they pick up the phone anyway. If you hear the question, I think the microphone picks. The question from Andre Meyer is, how expensive can AOP be? I think this is the question that goes to Dimitri more like than to Mike. So this is the question, how expensive can AOP be? So I think they want to ask, is it a good idea to integrate AOP to?
Well, inside of Oracle, we use AOP. So we had all our choices, and we bought it, and we use it. So it's we have a public server called apex.oracle.com, but there's a sister service called apex.oraclecorp.com that's only available inside of our intranet. And on that, we use AOP, and we're very pleased with it.
Also, the conference organization here uses AOP. So if you look at your lovely name badges, those are actually printed using AOP. It was a difficult, like 2.5-minute job, I must say. But it was half a minute for me to write an email to Sunil, and he did the job.
Another question from the chat. Another question from David Gerber. Does Oracle use the full version on its public site with the 30K workspaces app? Oh, not so the full version means the developer version, or do you just the runtime version installed there? So inside, so on the
inside Oracle, we have different deployments. Some of them are the full development version, and some are runtime only. So we have an Apex apps instance that has runtime only. So our more sophisticated apps use the runtime only instance because it's more secure. But most of the departmental scale apps, so we go through security checks internally before we roll out more sophisticated Apex apps. And if it's a sophisticated app that has proprietary information that's important, we run it on a runtime only instance. It's best practice.
So interesting to me always was that Apex was cloud ready before there was cloud.
Yeah, no one called it the cloud. They called it hosting. They called it many different things, but the cloud term came like 10 years later at least.
So that's kind of the beauty. You can run Apex wherever you want. It could be locally.
And you know that there's kind of an interesting story. So I worked in the government group in Washington, D.C., but Oracle's headquarters is in California, so it's a long way away. And the guy that ran the government groups told Larry Ellison, you got to meet this guy. He's like coding all this stuff. Everyone loves it. And he like gets the customers and the customers love it. You got to meet this guy. And so he said, okay, I'll meet him. So we agreed to meet in New York. And so Larry like rented the whole floor of this hotel. And so went up and met him. And he's like, yeah, this is nice. Got to make it hosted. And that was right at the time that like Salesforce was starting out, and he was funding NetSuite. First went out through Oracle. Oracle later acquired it, but so he gave the idea to make it hosted, and we had to basically take every single table and put a security group ID, which was the standard name for apps, to make it multi-tenanted, so you could have one server service up, multiple tenants, and everyone could have their own private Apex environment in a big shared multi-tenant server. So that was Larry's inspiration. We said right away, and he did it.
That's impressive, right?
Yeah, it was absolutely the right answer. And I think more than anything else, it makes it easier, right? Because to get a new environment inside the company, it takes, I don't know, if you're type fast, around 10 to 12 seconds or something like that, you can get yourself a schema provision and have access to it. Same on apex.oracle.com in the public. If you type fast and the email comes quickly and you can cut and paste, it should happen in 15 seconds or thereabouts. So yeah, that's infinitely better than convincing someone to buy a server and someone else to install a database and then run it and have storage and all that stuff. Back it up.
This can be a nightmare in some companies. Yeah. So bit different question. Apex is very modern and it's cloud-based, and then everything or can be cloud-based. Your team is also quite modern, right? You're working remote, distributed. Do you have different time zones in your team and whatnot? How does it work for you?
Well, we use Zoom a lot, so it is true that we're distributed, and in some ways it's really nice. I mean, we started out distributed. There was two of us, Joel Coleman and myself, and he was in Columbus, Ohio, and I was in Bethesda, Maryland, at the Oracle office, and so we were distributed. Joel would come and visit every now and then. I think I visited at least once, maybe twice. I can't remember. We use Zoom all the time. I think Zoom and this ability to do web conferences is a game changer, because you gotta see the video, you gotta see the people. Are they multitasking? Are they cued in? You gotta be able to look in their eyes. Otherwise, it's just not good. But it works well. The biggest challenge, honestly, is time zone. Time zone changes. But what's nice is that if something's not working or something, I can email Karsten or Patrick or someone in Europe. And by the time I'm up, it's all fixed and all sorted.
That's actually smart, yeah.
And I heard a story from, I will not name the name, but someone from Austria that, like, when they finish the job, they just get the emails that they have to answer. Like when it's like 4 p.m. in Austria, like you start to write emails, not you, but someone from the US, and they have to stay late.
Well, I mean, if you like Apex, I don't understand the problem of not wanting to do it like before dinner and after dinner. And, you know, I don't understand this problem.
And it was not Patrick, because I see him there. And there is just one more.
Oh, one of the big problems we have with getting our developers to work at night was eye strain. And so this release, to make sure our developers wouldn't have less eye strain, we have the dark mode. So when it's at night, now there's no excuse, really, and I don't see it.
So what do you tell people that still run Apex 4 or 3?
Well, I say congratulations, you're running some of the oldest software on the planet, and it's amazing that it works. And the fact that it works, you should just be very thankful that we wrote software that you can run a version that's old that it works. But yeah, they do need to upgrade. Sometimes they need help, and help from people in this room. So it can be complicated. I think people don't know, how to upgrade. There's complexities in it, and so yeah, I say, work with your friendly consultant and consulting shop and get some help and get your apps upgraded to the latest.
Okay, so you would recommend to upgrade right away. For some reason, you actually love to release a new version on Fridays. And usually it's Friday late afternoon back home in Austria. So
we're trying to go with regular releases. So we're trying to release twice a year, and we're trying to, if the feature doesn't make it, then it gets pushed to the next release, and we develop new features on feature branches and merge them in. So we're trying to go down this route. And in terms of having on Fridays, I don't control the release date, but yeah, the team's kind of doing it for themselves, because if a significant problem comes up, then it's on the weekend, and all the people that are like super into Apex, they're going to want to try it. Now we just ruin their weekend. So I'll bring that home as an action item to try to release on Mondays.
And there's another thing. You do it before the conferences when the slides are done.
Yeah, no, it's
old version 18.2.
So if there's like for Kscope or certain Apex events, maybe this one in the future, we want to have a release for that conference. Sometimes the last bugs come in, they got to get them fixed, and it just gets delayed. Everyone knows how software works; things can get delayed for not a major reason very easily.
You shouldn't do slides before the conferences. Like wait until the end.
This conference we had to release out way in advance.
Yeah, I had to change my slides.
So anyone from the audience has a question or wants, has a feature wish, is there something you always wanted to tell Mike, like thank you? That would be cool too. But
of course, thank you for the great product. Yeah, that's for sure. But I have a question around cloud. So if we have apexoracle.com, it's a cost-free environment. You can build your own applications with it, which is great. But what I would like to see is just a button in there saying, I want to upgrade to the next instance, to a productive instance with much more capability, and I have to pay for that. And with one click, I can get that. And I get those applications that run on Apex or Oracle running in a cloud environment from Oracle.
Yeah, that's definitely a vision of ours to be able to make it so that you could, let's say that you had an Oracle Cloud, you were a customer and you had access to the object store. So the vision is to be able to have a button that you would put in your credentials for the object store. We push all the artifacts, the database and everything. So using some of the ORDs and SQL developer capabilities to get everything you would need into an environment. You could either provision it in a new PDB, if you will, or add it to an existing PDB as a new schema. So it's on our roadmap, but we want to do a number of projects in that space to make that easier.
Great to hear. And by that, also push it into Git if you're on it, and get an automated deployment in place. So that would be
You're
great.
talking about making the Apex applications automatically sync to your local Git, or you want like the public?
The Oracle Cloud Git.
Oh, yes. And we're in the Terraform scripts now as of a couple of days ago, I think. So that's one step forward, but we're enlarging the team and hopefully be able to get to a number of these things. It's just...
Thanks.
Okay, as we are in a bar, I have a nice question too about music. So when I code, I like to play music, and I did it on Twitter once. Like I play dance music. Now that Jackie joined the team, we are playing country music in the office. So I wondered. I have two questions. Like the first question, like Mike, do you listen to music when you code?
No, I've tried it and it doesn't work, and so it's silent, absolutely silent, and I need the concentration, and I just can't do it.
Okay, so my second question will be less relevant because we have now the dark mode team. I thought maybe we can have like an Apex music stream or something that we can have.
If you listen to music, you should listen to some sort of Apex streaming device or something like that. There should be some Apex angle on the whole event.
So maybe we should have something in the builder that has some music next to the dark mode.
Yeah, and a lot of people work better. Developers work better that way. It's just somehow better for some people. If it's not for everyone, but yeah, I think that would be interesting to have a.
Okay, thank you.
Patrick will get right on that.
Yeah, let's create a Spotify Apex stream or whatever they call it.
We don't have that. Like, what is the general music stream of Apex developers?
I don't know. What's your music stream?
Well, I'm dance, but like, nobody moved to country.
So there's dance, country.
We're in a jazz bar, so.
That could work. That could work. Combined with the dark modes, that sounds good. So people, don't be shy. You know, wish for features. You could direct questions not only to Mike but also to everyone else in here. Like there is Patrick and Carsten from the Apex dev team. There is like close to 10 aces or groundbreakers or whatever they are called, but respected community members. And there is Jürgen. And as you know, Jürgen has the answers.
All the answers.
There is a web service telling you more about that. Okay.
There's one question from the chat from Sahid Baid. Why Apex versions are coming so quickly? If someone working on a product and all of a sudden the new Apex version is there, while the product is not mature enough, I don't understand the last question, but I think he's complaining that there's too much versions coming.
Yeah, I mean, it could be a problem if we release 2 releases a year. Some people see it as a real positive because we can get the latest, greatest, responsiveness and universal theme enhancements and many other things out faster. But to be honest, if you're in the last 2 or 3 releases, and if they're well supported, I don't see any reason why you have to uptake them. And so releasing earlier allows the features to be hardened. So if you're a conservative shop, which there's nothing wrong with that, and you like to use the tried and true releases, you can do that. and let other people get the bugs out for you on the newer releases that happen more frequently, and then upgrade, once a year and a half, whatever you feel comfortable with. But personally, I don't see that every application environment has to be upgraded to the latest and greatest unless you want the features and functions that are there. So, but I think it's important that the world's changing fast and that we need to stay on top of our game and keep producing the latest and greatest and providing people cutting edge technology as best we can.
So Dietmar, you have a question.
So Dietmar, what version was your first version of Apex?
I believe 2.0.
Okay.
And then I quickly went to XE 2.1. And Dennis always liked to tell the story about how he came to Apex and what a revelation it was. And he was like so excited about everything. And he was going to the toilet and sitting down, and there was like a light shining down on him, and there was music. Da-da! So that was his true awakening to Apex. It was in combination with XE. It was free. It was wonderful. Everything we needed. Yeah. And at the time, I was thinking about doing for cost implementation of whatever product I wanted to build, and I was looking into Spring framework and Java and all that stuff. But that was really complicated. And once HTML came out with XE for free, wonderful. That was really great. So I could leverage my skills I already had building regular solutions for my customers. I could also do other stuff. So that's awesome.
So I was recently in a marketing meeting with lots of senior executives and such, and it was determined based on that meeting that developers like free and easy. They like those two things together, free and easy.
Yes, definitely. And I've also seen some clients starting out with XE for free and then moving on to the for cost version once they feel their application and data is so precious that they need high availability, backup recovery, and so forth.
You have to reinforce your floors in your data center, roll in like 5 or 6 Exadata, and you're good to go.
Yeah, perfect.
You could be Apple.
So that's a bar, right? So we are slowly going to shift towards more an Ask an Ace or Ask Anyone session. So if you're getting thirsty, do you want me to get you? That's a proof. Mike's actually human. Cheers, Mike. Cheers. Cheers. So we got a very diverse community here. So it's a regional conference, but people are coming from all over Europe and US and from everywhere. Where do you see the biggest community in terms of users of Apex? Do you have any means of?
I mean, I don't have an exact means, but I think Europe is probably our best region, followed by North America. But every region is an opportunity, and it seems that it's growing in Eastern Europe. I think stronger than Southern Europe. Maybe it's kind of odd where it comes. I think it's strong in the Middle East, and we're looking to expand into Latin America and South America. And we think that we have a good opportunity there. And we're making inroads in Korea and Japan, and so we're very happy with very well attended meetups, and there's a lot of interest, especially in Asia, about the intersection between cloud and Apex. So we see growing everywhere. We want to sort of as a opportunity to go to places where not everyone goes first, and we're happy to go everywhere.
That's good to hear. I heard you're also going to branch out more into Eastern Europe.
He's going on a full Eastern European tour with Vlad Uvarov, and so that should be good. And he's going to Russia. He's going to maybe even more. He's going to Latvia. I think there's a couple other countries in there too.
So it's actually a nice side effect of your big and distributed team. You have team members from virtually everywhere. So you got members with like Korean roots and Eastern Europe roots and Central Europe and Latin America and everything.
Yes, and we want to expand and continue that. And what's nice, when we need to translate our Apex page, we don't have to go outside the group to translate it into any number of languages.
So you're looking for new team members, right?
Yes.
So what's the person that that you're looking for, or the persons have to bring to the team?
Well, I've never looked at it like that. So I've always been opportunistic in our hires, and so it's always the person that brings something that I hadn't thought of before, or something that's unique or whatever, and they approach us and they end up working for us. So it's not like, oh, I wish I had someone that knows this particular JavaScript library or would be able to build this one feature. It's about a vision, or about a way of thinking about things, a way of thinking of programming, a way of approaching problems that it solved that. Yeah. So I remember I attended this one person was building a presentation, and he was going and describing how the Apex data dictionary was very similar to the Oracle data dictionary and how cool it was. So I was very impressed with that, and ended up hiring him. You have to ask. Yeah, this will be a mystery.
So it's finally a question from the audience, right?
It's Patrick Wolf.
So maybe I also have a question. It seems like Apex is picking up steam lately. What do you attribute it the most? Is it like Gartner and others putting Apex on the low-code map, so it's actually visible to the outside world, so you have more credibility there, or because it has been grown organically a lot throughout the past years?
I don't think there's any one thing. I think there's like 10 things. I think the organic growth helps. The Apex community people seem to try it. And to the best of my knowledge, pretty much everyone who tries Apex and has at least basic SQL skills ends up liking it. Not everyone likes Apex, but a very high percentage of people that try it like it and give up whatever they're doing before it and come onto it. I think low code in general is starting to kick in because there's this realization that you don't have to build every internal application, every departmental application, or even enterprise application from scratch with a development team with 20 people and a product manager, a program manager, a security analyst, a bug group, and you can just do it with 2 people in 2 months, and you don't have to do it with 20 people in 2 years. And so I think there's this trend where projects are becoming smaller. And so if you look at like the growth of Agile and that development methodology and framework, and which is growing crazy, that's nothing to do with Apex per se directly, but it's this mentality of wanting to take smaller chunks of problems and solve them more rapidly. And Apex kind of fits into that. And I think as a result of that, needing for companies to be more agile and less static and less, run it, I'm going to write my application and run it for 10 years, it's never going to change. But the reality is it should change every month or every year. And so I think that's driving it more than anything else.
Yeah, talking about Agile, there are still like these 2 major, I would almost say, pain points in Apex, especially with talking about Agile. For once, being able to upgrade application by application and not the whole instance, and also like version control, being able to apply patches, doing this and whatever. So the Apex team is now also having a dedicated resource just to look at those things.
Yeah, so the Oracle store, shop.oracle.com, is written in Apex, and the lead architect for that, this guy named David Bliss, has had to patch the Oracle store on a weekly basis for any number of things, and goes through this pain and feels it firsthand. And we're going to work with as many people as we can to come up with an elegant solution. It should be noted that if you code the source code control systems and the whole framework for merging and everything like that is grown up around procedural coding. It's a file-based systems and metadata-based systems, typically low-code systems or metadata-based, are just a little bit of an impedance mismatch. It's a little bit hard, but we do want to get it, and there's lots of great innovations coming the community as well in the space. And so it's definitely something on our roadmap. You'll see our statement of direction. It's something we need to do much better on.
It's good. That's actually good to hear. So sometimes companies, before they want to start using Apex, they ask like the big questions. What about versioning? We say, oh yeah, you know.
Well, companies have a pipeline. They have a continuous integration, continuous delivery framework, and they're not changing their framework just because this new, application tool comes along. So you don't define their framework defines you. So we have to work in all the popular frameworks. We don't have a choice to say, oh, we should do it the way we like it. We have to fit into the way the CI/CD world is, and we definitely need to get on that.
So, different topic. Oracle Forms. It's awesome, right? I used to do forms a lot, and it's still a very unique product. For certain types of applications, you can't do any better than forms. But forms developers are getting old and older and older, right? They are retiring or retired years ago, whatever. There is no young people coming back saying, oh yeah, I just finished my studies, I want to learn forms, right? Nobody does that. So looking in this room, we see, some younger people.
Thank you.
Then there is you again. What can we do as a community to attract more, very young people to join the Apex train?
Yeah, maybe other people know better than me, but it's free and easy, getting it out there, getting the Terraform scripts, getting everything, Oracle XE, all these things, just making it easier to gain access to the environments, to be able to code it, more YouTube examples, more sophisticated packaged apps that can be unlocked and customized, etc.
So I have a question.
Come on, Mr. Suri.
So we're talking about recruiting younger generations.
Yes.
So I have a question for all Oracle Asians actually. How did you get into Apex, and what do you think are the steps that the younger generation need to take to get into Apex?
So how did the people in the room or me personally?
Yeah, so for you personally, how did you you created Apex basically. It's actually a question to other Oracle Asians, I guess.
Yeah.
And then the next question would be, what steps do you think the younger generation should take to get into Apex, or what are the steps to take?
I think one of the challenges for the younger generation is to appreciate SQL. So maybe the older generations, they took relational database modeling courses. They know how to draw entity relationship diagrams. They know what ERD stands for. And so some of the younger generation, they're more of a UI first mentality. And so the database is just a persistence layer. They don't understand it. And so one of the challenges we have is to kind of explain the elegance of SQL. It's not a hard language. It's not really, you can get your head around it really quickly. But if we can get younger people to appreciate SQL, which is used by pretty much every database on the planet, then I think that it's easier to get the Apex enthusiasm. But I much defer to other people.
Do you think the MLE will affect other developers?
Nobody is. You need to.
Yeah, so Oracle's going to have an MLE, multilingual engine, which will allow us to code snippets of code in JavaScript and Python, and in addition to PL SQL, so you can have your choice of language. And so as soon as the Oracle database supports MLE, multilingual engine, will be a trilingual tool. So you can if you prefer to do your looping and conditional structures for little snippets of code, business logic in Python or JavaScript, you're more than welcome to do that. It will work equally as well as PL SQL.
So you said that's coming in 2020?
I don't know the exact version. You have to ask Gerald Benzel. So Gerald's in all the meetings, and he's going to know best. He'll be here tomorrow, if not tonight.
He should come tonight, but a bit later.
And I believe that the MLE team is out of Austria. remember correctly, Switzerland and Austria. Yeah, so it's a local team. In Linz.
Can I give you my 2 cents to this question? I mean, you basically.
You can,
I mean,
limit it to a minute. Or
so I think what you miss is, I mean, I'm coming from a business administration background, right? I was never a programmer. I just started reluctantly because I didn't trust these guys, and I was right. I think, look at from a economic perspective, it's pretty easy to make good money as a consultant or freelancer with not so complicated skill set, right? If you know a little bit SQL, PL/SQL, a little HTML, I know everything good. I'm not deep inside of anything, but knowing everything a little bit, it's very easy for everybody. So I train a lot of managers at Audi, for example, the guy who built the ARA, and he was just an office guy, right? And he was able, after a training and a personal coaching, to build his own application. So for the young people, there is money in Apex.
I think that's true. I think that's a.
Young people also follow seniors.
I think that you made a really good point. So when you look at universities, they try to teach people in a generic fashion about databases or whatever. If Oracle could more deeply engage with the university so that they have free access to the database and do the courses on Oracle. Joel once said, Apex is the ultimate Trojan horse. So once you have the database in there and you have Apex, it's so easy, it makes fun, and many teachers really get excited about that, and they will also infect, in quotes, their students. So I think there's a lot of merit in there. And also what you said, there's a lot of money to make, in the sense that when you get in contact with a real database, for which there is a high demand in the market, where you run professional applications and high-end applications on that, there's a lot of merit in there.
I want to add 2 things to like Sunil's question about younger people using Apex or getting started with Apex. So the schools, they teach like a lot of object-oriented programming. Apex is not really in that area. And so the young people, they see like the database as the black box. Now Oracle is pushing that area too with like the autonomous database. So this is fine. But for Apex, I think what should happen for younger people to find Apex is to make SQL sexy again. So we will make Oracle great again, and we will make SQL sexy again, and then Apex will shine. I'm sorry, I had too many years. Maybe this is about.
It's on the tape. You cannot cut it out.
I think that is really hard to make SQL sexy again, in a sense, because they're all taught different things, right? So to me, at least, when starting out, it was more about efficiency. So for me, Apex is just the 4th generation language for the web, right? So when I started out using Visual Basic or using Forms or Power Builder, whatever, you could implement stuff so easily and fast that has high business value, right? And you don't have to reinvent the wheel like having 20 Java programmers so that you have a persistence layer, right? And so that was also driving me for GL for the web, focusing on efficiency. It's awesome.
And may I add something that no matter what you are, right? I mean, if you are a backend guy, right? Apex is for you. I know people who love SQL, PL/SQL.
coding business logic. If you are a front-end guy, guess what? Apex is for you. You can build any front-end on the planet, everything you have ever seen on the internet, you can build Apex. So it's very diversified. So you find yourself happy no matter where. When you want to do IT, I think AP has a place for you, right?
So to answer Sunil's question, I started to use Apex because I'm an incredible lazy guy. I love to code, but only some parts. I don't like to repeat the same things over and over and over again. So with a tool like Apex, you focus on business logic. And that's kind of fun, to me at least. And I'm getting paid for that.
Actually, that's what was very similar for me just as well. I started out with Oracle as a consultant from 97 to 2000. And then I became a freelancer. I continued to build OWA toolkit applications by myself, by hand, for my clients. And once Apex came out, I was like, wow, now I don't have to do all that crappy stuff I don't like to do over and over again. I just can focus on the business part. So that was a lot easier. But I was already in the Oracle world.
So that's now a question dedicated to the Apex team. So Carsten and Patrick, do you want to share, how is it to work with a, implementing Apex and working on a team? How does your job look like? How does it work?
You can come here.
Oh, we got plenty of space, right? See, we're getting more and more people here.
More and more people, but I'm actually not an ace, so I'm a bit misplaced here. But anyway, yeah. So for me, my experience is a bit special because I started in Oracle back in 2001 and did 15 years of pre-sales, right? And that was pre-sales means actually customers ask questions, and it was a lot of fun. Helping customers in getting their problem solved. Hey, have a look at that database functionality that can help you, right? But when it came to actual coding, as a pre-saler, you code up to a specific point. Functionality is running. Okay, here, Mr. Customer, see, this is how it works, and you go over to the next problem.
You're no good at the first 20 minutes.
Right, and that was, for me, actually the greatest challenge, the biggest change. If you're implementing Apex for real, it doesn't stop after these 20 minutes, right? You have to do everything, right? And but after my change in the team, I had great support from all the team members, Patrick, Christian, and all the others, it was a great experience. I would never want to miss that. I would never want to miss the preset experience because that gives you a very special view on problems. And I would also not like to miss the change to the Apex team and actually doing things for real.
But you can still do your sales consulting things as a developer of Apex.
Right, and I'm doing it actually right.
Oh, can I have a question for Carsten, because somebody's asking if OData is on the list.
So,
OData.
So, short answer, yes, it's on the list. But unfortunately, that's what I learned rather quickly. I don't have a release date for you right now, but it's on our plan. Yeah. OData. So the question was about OData. OData is a framework for RESTful services. So I will get to that in my talk tomorrow. But when you're talking to a RESTful service, there is a specific way how you do pagination, how you pass filters to the RESTful service, how you perhaps aggregate data, and REST as such doesn't standardize on this, right? Every REST service does it differently, and OData is a specific standard for that. Filters are passed so, and an aggregation is passed that way. And we have OData on our list. but it's not there yet. And we were working on this.
After the model list of values, I guess. Huh?
I think so. So the list of values on the statement of direction. So it's already, you can read about this on the internet. Oh, data is not right at this stage yet. Oh,
I would just like to add something, it's the session with Mike Hichwa, and since you're both on stage, if you have a question for him, like something you always want to ask, but you are afraid to, or now is your chance.
That's probably not the right audience, right? But Peter, about your question before about doing Apex development and doing the core development. When I started with Apex as a customer, I had this Forms background. And at that time, Forms, as you said, is a very productive tool. And at that time, when I started writing my own Apex applications, I found one or the other feature which I thought Apex had a deficiency, and where I wrote my open source framework at that time, Apex Lib, which might be still out there on the internet, but probably doesn't work anymore. And what I found really great is to be able to directly work on the product, enhance it, make it better, fill those gaps which I thought are missing. And I think that's what I really like. I can influence and change the experience, how developers are working with Apex.
And you like it so much, you built a robust plugin architecture.
That's right. Now, that's what I like. So I'm totally for GL development, declarative development, but on the other side, it's really cool to write the tool to provide those capabilities.
If the tool doesn't do what you need, you can just program the tool and teach it, and it's all accessible from Page Designer and very elegant.
Speaking of, when can we teach the tool to do what we want to have it to do, right? So we can write plugins now. That's awesome. And there are many plugins out there. There was just a plugin competition, and the winners are not announced yet. This will be happening at Apex Connect.
200 on Apex World.
200 plugins on Apex World. Look at that. That's good. And there is still apexplugin.com.
No.
It still exists. Anyway, this is awesome. This is good. But we would also like to extend the Apex application builder. Ooh.
Christian would say that's a security kind of issue.
Well, he is saying that, I know.
Everything?
So, but what about giving us a separate workspace like 11, which is more powerful, can do stuff, but not everything. So we could create some apps of our own that do something there.
I don't get the business point, Peter. Can you explain it? I don't get it. What's the reason for that?
So, for example, I'm dealing with a lot of lists in Apex. A list has list entries, and it's really cumbersome to maintain many list entries because you gotta click here, go there, da. I want to be able to write my own interface to create a drag and drop able tool to maintain those list entries.
I think if we had a standardized API in which you could interact with our metadata in a safe, secure, well-documented way, then that gives you that opportunity. And we've been dabbling in this for a number of years, and it's on our eventual list to be able to allow the metadata to be safely manipulated through our builder, but also through an API that you could write it in whatever security group ID you want to, and just provide the privilege.
I think that's the key point. As Mike said, it's really about providing an API to be able to be used by a developer.
I do know this answer, and it sounds familiar from the last time I asked this question.
Yeah, it's a question of priority. It's this 80-20 rule. What do developers like first? Nice, cool feature, or
you could enhance the application builder more, or give me the tools to do it myself.
But it's quite a lot of work to provide those security.
I prefer him to it.
The good thing is we're 20 years in, and we're just like if we were to kind of put our heads together, we come a list of 50 outstanding ideas, each of which would take like 6 months to implement.
Yeah, there is so much to do, right?
And every release, there's coming up something new, so that's the issue. Right?
So this adds a lot of complexity. When I started with Apex, it was version 3, I don't know. And it was quite simple to understand and simple to grasp the feature set, the possibilities, everything. And then all those cool things have been added. So someone who's starting fresh today on version 19, they have like a wealth of features and possibilities. How should they, approach that?
8,000 settings.
Yeah, so with a declarative framework, you end up having a lot of settings. And so we thought, well, we'll put a little switch in Page Designer, have an advanced mode, and have the advanced settings. And then, but the problem with these declarative features is that everyone has their own list that they like. And so maybe but every release we try to make it a little simpler and a little less cluttered and a little easier to code. It is true that declarative frameworks suffer from this, is there's just a lot of settings. Keynote and PowerPoint have the same issues.
Yeah, at one point everything starts simple. It's super easy, but with the demand of developers, I want to switch here, I want to have this configuration option there, and then it's getting a little bit more complicated. But I totally agree that I think we have to look another time at the product and how to make the development process easier, especially for beginners, to look at the usability and look at the processes, how a development application is developed, and maybe simplify our wizards, make it easier approachable. I think the number of attributes will never be able to go to remove. It's this kind of flexibilities developers want to have, but it's this first-time experience, how you can make an application in a simple way.
I think it's not limited to 4GL or Apex. When I think about programming languages and cool APIs, so I think about Node.js and all those cool Node.js. The coolest Node.js API started as a very simple API with jQuery. It started also simple, right? A few API calls, a few parameters, and that was it. It was super easy to learn, super easy to grasp, and the community grew quickly. And 3 years later, you have 500 API calls and 8,000 parameters, right? So it's as functionality increases, complexity increases, right?
So I guess I'll try a different attempt in asking this question. It's I like all those settings and features and attributes. That's cool, and I'm all for declarative settings. I would like to have 12,000 settings, right? But the question is more like, what are the 2 key things someone coming new to Apex needs to understand? Like, what are the main concepts?
Page rendering, page processing.
Yeah, that's a start.
Yeah.
What else? Any ideas?
Web architecture. Understand Ajax and where are my data? Are they on the browser? Are they in the session? Am I using PLC code? Recently, somebody asked me, "Oh, I have PLC code. Is it running in the browser?" No. So there's a lot of people programming Apex for a very long time, and they don't really know. They know what to do to achieve something, but they don't know what they do.
So it's probably a key point. Understand that Apex is actually built on web architecture. Right? There is the browser and there is the database running Apex, and what's happening where and when. Session state is probably a good idea. Others?
I would like to state the fact we are running in a database, right? We are SQL driven, right? I think that's it's not necessarily something you need to know in order to run your application successfully, right? You can run perfectly successful SQL code. But once you grasp the fact that you're in the Oracle database, and as I like to tell customers, try to reformulate your business problem to a SQL problem. And once you have done that, all the visualization comes at zero cost, right? SQL, you want to have the tabular layout, the report. You want to have a pie chart, the chart, calendar. Get a cool plugin from apex.world, right? It all says region source SQL. Once you grasp as a developer, once you grasp the fact that that the right SQL query can solve the problem for you, the rest is the most tiny step you can imagine.
Okay, good. So I see some people want to ask questions, right? Don't look away.
All at once.
So, I mean, this is a free format. Sir.
Hi, I have a question. It's Apex related, but not strictly Apex. So I'm talking about Oracle applications, Fusion apps. So with release 12 Oracle applications, Oracle introduced quite a large number of HTML forms, JSP pages, or app pages. And then developers needed to customize it. And Oracle said, well, you should use OAF, Oracle Application Framework. But PL/SQL developers, forms developers, they didn't know anything about Java. It was quite a steep learning curve. And then there was Apex, PL/SQL, SQL, quite familiar, and they started doing customizations on their own, extending Oracle applications using Oracle Apex. And the Oracle stance was like, yeah, you can do it, but you should do it in your app. And people still continued with Apex because it was easier, better, simpler to learn, develop quicker. For example, to see the result of your change, you didn't have to wait, I don't know, 20 minutes, go for a coffee until it compiles builds. And then Oracle came up with this white paper. Well, if you really, really want to do it with Apex, then do it this way. It was okay, but still seamless integration was missing. Then Instant guys came along with a solution for kind of seamless integration between Apex applications and EBS. So my question would be about Apex. Where do you see Apex fitting into Fusion apps? Extending Fusion apps and stuff.
So there's a couple of things going on with Fusion apps. One is that they're iterating towards having a properly documented REST API, and Apex is iterating towards being a very friendly consumer as well as producer of REST, and so there's that angle. There's another angle as well, and that's that a lot of Fusion apps it runs on the Oracle Cloud. Most implementations are on our cloud, and there's this direction that when you're wanting to do analysis and various operations against our cloud is to be able to take the Fusion apps data and synchronize it to data warehousing cloud service. And Apex is not there yet, but it will be very shortly, hopefully by the end of this month or thereabouts. We'll see. You never know. Maybe early next month. It's maybe this calendar year is safer to say from a legal perspective. But the idea is, the vision is that a lot of people want to synchronize their data and put it onto a data warehousing cloud where you can mash it up with other data that you synchronize from other places, and that Apex will be there for free already installed. So there's a couple interesting angles. The REST and the cloud ability to have a native Apex pre-installed, ready to go against an automated synchronized data warehousing environment. So there's those two things. Do other people have other comments?
I got no idea.
So I guess there's two types of Apex developers: those that extend e-business suite and Fusion apps and SAP and SaaS applications in general, and those that build applications from scratch. So I don't know which is bigger. I would guess that the apps extension is a bigger market for us. It's hard to say. It's hard to get your finger on it, but I think it is. we want to strive to make that better. We released new white papers and working closely with Steve Miranda, who runs it, to try to make that the Apex experience as good as it can be.
Jürgen has a question from the chat.
No, personal
Okay.
question. Personal question.
To me?
I mean, we are in a rock bar, right? And I know you're a guitar player. So who is your favorite guitar player?
I don't really have a specific guitar player, but I have maybe my lack of talent is obvious. But I actually like punk bands and pretty much 3 or 4 chords and not too many solos. So so any guitar player that fits that persona, I like.
Well, Apex player, basically.
Yeah, I like to keep it simple. I don't like to get into the complex parts of it. Patrick and Karsten deal with those.
So anyway, there are a bunch of aces at the conference, a bunch of members of the Apex team and other, like everyone. If you have questions throughout the day, today or tomorrow, just come up, talk to us, talk to anyone. The Apex community is unique. It's approachable, it's friendly. We love to share. So let's talk. And now we could enjoy a party, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So should we turn on music?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, buddy.